Both sides of the community, both sides of the peace wall were actually quite similar in the working class communities here in Belfast. But somehow, one side, they were Brandys, Fenians and Teagues. The other side, they were Huns and Snouts. One side typically supported Rangers, the other side typically supported Celtic. One side went to the church, the other went to the chapel. One side, they proudly called it Northern Ireland. The other side, they called it the North of Ireland. Derry, Londonderry. One side would paint their curbstones red, white and blue, the other green, white and orange. Complete polar opposites. And how did you tell the difference between the people here? Sure, you all looked the exact same. No, their eyes were too close together. Isn't that what we used to say? I know where he's from the other side. His eyes are too close together. Polar opposites, but on a human level, we were exactly the same. Both sides were just fighting for what they believed in. Both sides grew up in two up, two down houses. Most people barely had enough fucking money to put bread on the table, didn't have a pot to piss in. Both sides as kids just wanted to live a free life, play pitchy, play hunts, swing around a tire swing. We're actually next door neighbours when you think about it. The only distance that was separating both sides was a couple of metres. As we would say here in Belfast, we're only a stone's throw away, pun intended. Geographically, we were side by side. But mentally, we're worlds apart. What's up folks, my name's Dean McCrud and this is Tick the Bucket, and today I am in one of my favourite places to come for, as we say in Belfast, a dander along the peace walls. One of Belfast's most infamous, one of its most notorious landmarks, famous for all the wrong reasons. For anybody that doesn't know who I am, my name is Dean McCrud and my alias is Tick the Bucket, and I've spent the last decade backpacking on and off to 60 different countries on 6 different continents, and I always bring people with me, whether it's through a blog, vlog, reel or travel content. Today I'm going to give you a completely unbiased walk around the Belfast peace walls. See, the thing is, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. No matter what you say or do, or how much you watch what you say, in Belfast you're going to get people who's butthurt and offended on both sides. But this is going to be completely unbiased. It's going to take a little dander, show you what it looks like, give you some facts. What I will say is, this is strictly off the cuff. There's not going to be no take two, this is going to be done in one take only. Haven't rehearsed this, haven't researched it. It's going to be off the cuff and off the top of my head. So no doubt, I am going to get some things wrong, so I'm going to get some facts slightly inaccurate. It is what it is, it's off the top of the head, but it's just for fun. But anyway, I hope you all enjoy it, and let's get into the tour. So before we head up to the main peace wall, I want to take us on a little bit of memory lane here. I want to paint a vivid image in your mind of what it would have been like growing up in Belfast in the late 60s and early 70s when the Troubles broke out. In fact, even when I was growing up in the 90s and early 90s, the early 2000s, this is the kind of houses and the streets that I would have grew up in. It's called a 2 up, 2 down. So coming down here, we're near Belfast city centre. We're at the bottom of the Shankill Road and straight ahead is the Falls Road. This is Brown Square. If you were from here, you were known as a Brown Square millionaire. The reason why I'm taking you here is there's very few streets left in Belfast that has the 2 up, 2 down style houses, and here is one of them. A lot of the houses from when I was growing up and during the Troubles have been knocked down due to regeneration, which is a good thing. I'm glad to see that. So where does the name 2 up, 2 down come from? So each house would have 2 bedrooms upstairs, usually a larger one for the adults, and at the back it would have been a smaller one for the kids. Downstairs there would have been a living room and a working kitchen. So you might ask, then where was the bathroom? Where was the lavatory? When these houses were originally erected, most houses had a toilet out the back, a yard out in the backyard. And if you go further back in time, you know, maybe 100 years, most streets and lanes had a yard lavatory, one for the entire street. So that's why it's a 2 up, 2 down. 2 bedrooms upstairs, living room, kitchen, but out the back was the toilet. So right here is what we call in Belfast an entry. Some places across the world we call this an alleyway. We call these entries. And if you're a bit of a naughty boy back in the day, this is the last place you would have wanted to be taken to. If you're a naughty boy, this is where certain people would have brung you to reprimand you. This is where you would have went to get taught a lesson, let's just say. But the less I say about that, the better. The reason why I'm showing you the entryway is to show you the double extension. So this house here has the double extension on the lane, which would add another bedroom and bathroom and extend the kitchen out. But back in the day, all the houses were just like this one here. 2 up, 2 down, and out the back here, that is where the bathrooms would have been. That's where the toilet would have been, out in the yard, right beside the entry. Now, I'm going to take us a little dander back up the street, and I'm going to paint an image of what the women of the street was like, and what it was like as a kid roaming about the streets, what we used to get up to, and how we used to make fun and mischief. So one of the first things you'll notice about the 2 up, 2 downs and the streets of Belfast is the houses don't have any gardens. This one has a little makeshift front garden, but they don't have any gardens. I know we didn't have much. The one thing we did have was our pride. I remember growing up, the women on the street, when they had finished cleaning their house, they used to throw hot water and bleach out onto the street and scrub the streets. The street used to be a magnet. As I say, we didn't have much, but we had our pride and we had our respect. The men went to work with their work boots polished, and the women maintained the streets and the houses. The streets were gleaming. They were all scrubbed. Now, in Belfast, these are called curbstones. Other places in the world, I don't know where down south, England, Scotland, what they call them, but we call them curbstones. And these became significant because they were a way of marking territory in both sides of the community. In the summer months, these would get painted red, white and blue, or green, white and orange, depending on what part of Belfast you were in, especially around the summer months. In the summer months, there's 2 celebrations on both sides of the community. In July, the 11th and 12th celebrations, celebrating the Battle of the Boyne, and in August, the Fila or Fla. So in the summer months, things in Belfast start to heat up. And I don't just mean about the climate and the weather, because it rains all year long, and we only get summer for 2 weeks in July. But tensions start to heat up on both sides of the community, coming up to the July festivities, and a way of showcasing your pride for your community, showcasing your colours and marking your territory was to paint the curbstones and erect flags up on the lamppost. Usually the curbstone painting was the job of the younger ones. The adults, the hierarchy of the community, would send the kids or the young teens out, and it'd be their duty to paint all the curbstones. And one of the games we used to have as a kid to keep ourselves entertained, because you need to remember, there was no phones and there certainly wasn't a camera like I was recording on. You had to make fun in the streets yourselves. And one of the games we used to play was a game called Kirby, where you and your friend stood at opposite sides of the pavement. I'd have been here and my friend would have been there, and you would have had to throw a football across the road, and you wanted it to hit the corner here and bounce back across to your side of the street, and that was classed as a point. If you missed, they could catch it and it was their turn to throw it back. That was Kirby. There was also a game, if you can remember right, that would have got you in a lot of trouble by your mother if you lost your lunch money. It was a game called Pitchy, where you would have stood here, again, kind of like a dart player stands with his foot and throws the dart. You stand and you have to throw the penny against the wall. The closer to the wall you got, you won. If you got the penny or pound to stand up, that was called a stander. Leave me a comment if you play Pitchy or Kirby in the streets. I also remember, this is a quite modern lamppost, but there was the old style lamppost, kind of like this one here. This is the traditional lamppost, the wooden ones. As a kid, we used to put a rope around this and a tire and used to swing around, and that's how you made fun of mischief. A tire swing around the lamppost. If you're a naughty boy or girl in the community, you would often get tied around this and they would pour tar and fellers around you. Another game that I loved as a kid was a game called Hunts. Some people call them murder hunts. And it was basically hide and go seek on a grand scale. It was usually multiple streets long throughout the whole neighbourhood. And the difference between hunts and hide and go seek, once you see the person you're chasing, that is the game over. Hunts, you actually had to catch them. I think if I can remember right, you had to grab them and say hunt, hunt, hunt. But that was the game of hunts. It was my favourite of all the games growing up here as a kid. There was many games we used to utilise in the streets, using the curbs and the lampposts. Pitchy, hunts, the tire swing. Let me know in the comment section what game was your favourite game growing up here as a kid in Belfast. I hope that's painted a vivid image of what it was like growing up here in Belfast. You see, both sides of the community, both sides of the peace wall were actually quite similar in the working class communities here in Belfast. But somehow, one side, they were brandished, Fenians and Teagues. The other side, they were Huns and Snouts. One side typically supported Rangers, the other side typically supported Celtic. One side went to the church, the other went to the chapel. One side, they proudly called it Northern Ireland. The other side, they called it the North of Ireland. Derry, Londonderry. One side, we paint their curbstones red, white and blue, the other green, white and orange. Complete polar opposites. And how did you tell the difference between the people here? Sure, you all looked the exact same. No. Their eyes were too close together. Isn't that what we used to say? I know where he's from the other side. His eyes are too close together. Polar opposites, but on a human level, we were exactly the same. Both sides were just fighting for what they believed in. Both sides grew up in two up, two down houses. Most people barely had enough fucking money to put bread on the table, didn't have a pot to piss in. Both sides as kids just wanted to live a free life. Play pitchy, play hunts, swing around a tire swing. We're actually next door neighbours when you think about it. The only distance that was separating both sides was a couple of metres. As we would say here in Belfast, we're only a stone's throw away, pun intended. Geographically, we were side by side. But mentally, we're worlds apart. So we're now going to head up the road here and we're going to go to the main peace walls and the 4 gates that separates both sides of the community. I hope that's painted a nice image in your head of what it would have been like in the late 60s, early 70s, even in the 80s, 90s and 90s. What it would have been like in Belfast for both sides of the community and how they lived. So we've arrived in Townsend Street and up here is the first of 4 sets of gates that gets locked every day and night. And the reason why these gates were put here was because this is an interface between both sides of the community. I'm going to paint a little image, or I'm going to try to loosely describe what the divide is for people that's not from Belfast. I'll put it in layman's terms because there's so much nuances and it's very intricate, and the water runs a lot deeper than what I can put into a 30-minute YouTube video. But to put it directly, here is the Shankill Road. They are Protestant or Unionist or Loyalist or all of the above. And on this side, at the opposite side of the metal gate, Catholic, Republican, Nationalist or all of the above. Behind me, the people of Shankill Road want to remain British. They want to remain with the Union and the Crown, and they want to protect their heritage of being British. And behind me, the Falls Road, they are trying to protect their Irish identity. They want to unify the 32 counties into one sovereign state. And that's why there was a guerrilla warfare for over 30 years. There was an armed struggle on both sides of the community that started in 1969. So from the year 1969, there would have been British military presence right here. If you wanted to drive up and down the street to go from one side to the other, you would have got stopped and they would have checked your identity for the safety of both sides, because on the Shankill Road, on this side, they were going over and killing people on the Falls Road, and on the Falls Road they were doing the exact same. They were going over and killing people on the Shankill Road. So for the safety of the people on both sides of the community, they erected 4 gates that span the whole way up between the Shankill and Falls Road. The Shankill and Falls Road run adjacent to each other, side by side, parallel. Here is the first of the 4 gates, and I just want to show you this to show you kind of the magnitude and the length of the divide. It starts down here in Belfast city centre and it runs basically right up to the mountain. Now each gate opens and closes at separate times throughout the day, and I think it changes winter and summer months different times, but this is the first gate that separates both communities. Solid. I don't know if somebody comes around every night, locks it, or it's electronic, but this is the gate. And the funny thing is, I'm standing in the middle of 2 divided communities, literally in the middle. Protestant, Unionist, Loyalist, Catholic, Nationalist, Republican, Irish, British. And what separates them is this massive piece of metal. It's been here from 1969. It's 2026, so that is 57 years. There has been a divide here, 57 years. We're going to head back on up now. We're going to head on up the road and we're going to go to the gate number 2 out of 4 that goes the whole way up between the Shankill and the Falls Road. So folks, we're coming up to the second of 4 gates that separates both sides of the community. What I will say is, there's 2 subjects I don't speak about, especially like even when I'm backpacking. Anybody that doesn't know me, I spent the last 10 years traveling to 60 different countries on 6 different continents, and I don't talk about religion or politics, so I'm not going to do it today. So if you want to learn a bit more in depth of the history, book a taxi tour. There's plenty of them all around Belfast that will give you far more detail and facts than I will give you, and they will probably actually take you into the Shankill estate and into the falls right in. I'm not going to do that in this tour. I'm just going to take us a walk around the Peace Walls. There's actually one of the taxis away up there now doing a tour. So one of the things we are famous for in Belfast is murals. Everywhere else in the world they be classed as paintings, we call them murals, and usually they are propaganda of what either side is trying to promote, what their agenda is, or some of them is to people who's fallen during the war, people that's lost their lives, so somebody that's lost their lives during the Troubles. But again, I don't talk about religion or politics here. I'm not going to decode or decipher what both sides are trying to say. I'm just going to show you what the paintings are on either side, and it's up to you to decide yourself. Up here is the first gate. This one actually has 2 gates, so there's kind of like a no man's land in the middle. Behind me, that is the community I'm from. I'm from up this direction, and I'm crossing over. And the funny thing is, you know, when I was growing up, or many years ago, it wouldn't have been safe for me to be here. It wouldn't have been safe for anybody to be here, walking around, especially if you were showing your colours or people knew who you were or what you were doing. This wouldn't have been a safe place to be. Thankfully in 2026, we can walk freely. You know, I was born in 89, I caught the tail end of it. I seen part of the Troubles, but not enough where I was actually having to be involved in it, or, you know, it impacted me too much. The generation before me, the mothers and fathers and the grandmas and the grandpas, they'd have been right into the thick of it. And the generation after me, people that's like 18, 19 or 20 now, thankfully they grew up in a far more peaceful society now. We don't have like an arms struggle. People aren't shooting and killing each other. It's more a war of the tongue. It's a political war, arguing amongst each other. Thankfully there's no lives getting lost. But this is the Shankill Road, as I said, up here. Loyalist, Unionist, Shankill Road. They want to remain British. And at the opposite side of this gate is the Falls Road. It is Nationalist, Republican, and they want to unify into Ireland. I've actually never been here before and walked and actually checked out what the murals are saying. This is a no man's land, so it's not going to promote either side. It just seems to be pictures of the whole of Belfast. There's lots of welcome to the Shankill Road International Day of Peace, the 21st of September. Peace Day every day. Okay, I kind of like this one. And this say it's going to be West Belfast. Yeah, Falls Road, Clonard, West Belfast. Okay, well that's interesting. I've learned something new myself today, lad. There's two gates here. There's a set of gates there that gets locked every evening, and there's a set of gates there that gets locked every evening. And in the middle here is like a no man's land. But what they've done is they have made it into like a peace area where it's an international peace wall. Coming on through here, I'm going to walk through the gates, and like I said earlier, I'm literally taking 20 steps and I'm going from one community to the other. And in terms of ideology, no, go ahead. In terms of, nearly getting run over there, in terms of like ideology, their mindset, their history, their culture, their beliefs, their background, their heritage, they are literally worlds apart.
You're a legend.
Thank you, mate. Do you want to be on YouTube?
You're a legend, brother.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
I seen your videos everywhere.
What's your name?
Jordan Robinson, bro.
Jordan Robinson. I appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much.
Man. I watch you all the time. You're a legend.
Are you okay to be on YouTube?
You live the life, bro. You live the best.
Thank you very much, brother. Big up, bro.
Keep it going, bro. Keep it going.
Thank you, mate. Take it easy. Yes, see you later. Shout out Jordan Robinson if you see that. What a guy. Appreciate that there. Woo. Actually give me goosebumps there. But yeah, as I was saying, both sides of the community are worlds apart in terms of where they want to take, where they see the future, where their beliefs are, their heritage, their culture. But geographically, 10, 20 steps apart. That is how close the Shankill Road is to the Falls Road. I'll take you over here and show you some of the murals on the Falls Road also. But as I say, I'm not going to decode or decipher what they are trying to say. That is on yourselves. If you want to try and decode what the message is, that is entirely up to yourselves. I'm just here to show you what it looks like to walk around. But that's the Falls Road up there, guys. Just behind me is the Shankill Road. Next up, I'm going to take us to the main peace wall itself, the humongous peace wall. So here is gate number 3, and it is at the bottom of the biggest and most infamous peace wall in Belfast. It spans nearly half a mile, 800 metres up to Larnick Way. This road's called Cooper Way, and there's another gate at the opposite side of this. So this wall was originally built in 1969, but it was only meant to be a temporary measure. It wasn't meant to be here long term. It was originally like concrete and barbed wire that the communities built to separate both sides, but then they erected a massive concrete structure here that goes 26 meters high. It has been updated on 2 separate occasions. This wall wasn't big enough because people were still able to throw stones and bottles over, and they then erected this. In total, it is over 50 meters tall. Now, this is a kind of beacon of hope in between the two. This is done by a woman from New Life Church. I was actually going to New Life Church at the time, and I got speaking to her about a week before she started doing this. And I actually took a walk one day. I went for a walk last summer, and I got speaking to her while she was doing this here. Incredible work. Look at the intricate detail. That's actually popping 3D off the wall. Incredible work. How her mind was able to conjure this up, even right down to the flowers, and then she had to go and paint it after. But that's from New Life Church, that's round in near Shankill Estate in Dover. Incredible work. So I'm going to actually drive up the peace wall here for a bit, just so you can get a scale on the magnitude of how long this is. Over half a mile long. Now today, as you can see, it's been updated and it's used more for modern art, graffiti, modern art. And if you're a tourist, you can come here and leave a little mention with a marker pen on the wall. And we're going to pull over in a minute and actually I'll show you some of the messages that people all over the world has left. Me being a massive backpacker that's travelled all over the world, things like this really excites me because there's many countries and cities across the world where I've left a message on the wall, and today I'm going to get to see other tourists from across the world. But this is the length of the peace wall that goes the whole way up here. Massive, massive peace wall. I'm going to pull over just here and take a little walk up it, or as we say in Belfast, we'll take a little dander. So here's all the messages left from people from all over the world. Have you ever come here? Leave a little message yourself, or just take a walk and read some of the messages. Love and peace in the world. It seems to be the most reoccurring message that you see on the peace wall, funny enough, is about peace and love. So this part of the wall has flags from all over the world. Now, me being a backpacker, I should be able to get them all right, but let's have a go. I think that one is Syria, Switzerland, Argentina, that's the Chinese flag. Oh, I've absolutely no idea what country that is. Can somebody in the comments let me know? It says Denmark. I was actually going to guess Norway. That's not Denmark, is it? I'll trust what it says, Denmark. Uruguay, Brazil, Canada, France, Spain, the Dutch flag, Italy, New Zealand, Germany, UK, Great Britain, the European flag, South Africa, Japan. Oh, I think that's the Philippines, or I'm gonna guess Philippines, Portugal and the US. I don't know why on top it says Berlin, Baghdad, Nicosia, Falls, Shanghai, and obviously one that's very controversial at the moment on either side, Israel and Palestine. But the less said about that, the better, especially nowadays. That's what we should be hoping for there. Praying for peace everywhere, every single flag. I've took a dander up here on many occasions, especially last summer when the weather was good. I would use this route from the leisure centre down Shanghai Estate, Shanghai Leisure Centre. I would take a dander or run up here and then go up the Springfield Road, down the West Circular and down the Shanghai Road. That would be my kind of 5k route, and I would always stop and look at the messages. Barbara is for peace. There you go now. Now I'm going to spark up a bit of a Q&A, a bit of a debate, a healthy debate at that. What is your mindset? Should the peace walls stay up? What do you think? Drop a comment and let me know. In fact, I'm going to ask two questions. Should the peace walls stay up? B, should the gates stay locked? And I'll answer first myself. I think the peace walls should stay up, in my opinion, simply because it brings so much tourists here. It produces an income for a lot of people. It on both sides of the community, people that can tell their story, tell their history, and create an income for their family. I think it's a good thing to keep them up. It's a massive tourist attraction, and I don't believe that knocking them down would achieve anything. I don't think it would bring both sides of the community any closer. I feel like we're at peace with each other as much as we possibly can be. I don't think knocking these down would achieve anything. That being said, I do think the gates should remain open. I don't think there's a need for the gates to remain open in 2026. You know, if something was to flare up on both sides of the community, which is very few and far between, you can simply close them pretty quick. You can get out and get them closed for people's safety, but it rarely happens. Around about June, July, that is what we call in Belfast a joyrider. Some kid just doing donuts on a bike. But in Belfast, for anybody that's not from Belfast, around about June, July, August, it heats up. In July, the start of July, we have the 11th and 12th celebrations. That's celebrating the Battle of the Boyne. And in August, the Falls Road, that side of the community has the flower, the Fila, as it's, I don't know what way it's pronounced, but around about August and July, both sides have their own holidays and celebrations, so it can get a bit heated, but it doesn't. It's few and far between that it flares up. So I think keep the gates open. There's no reason to have that kind of barrier between us every day, like closing them as if we're caged animals. You know, let people travel back and forward and let them be free, and you know, I think that'll make people feel more safer. That, you know, we can travel back and forth between the falls and the Shankill. If you're closing them, you're still closing. You're still making a barrier, and it's a mental barrier. And yeah, me personally, keep the gates open, but keep this big baby up for tourism. I think knocking this down isn't going to achieve nothing, but I think closing the gates isn't achieving anything anyway. Let me know what you think. That's my opinion. Drop me a comment, let me know, should the peace wall stay up and should the gates get closed? So we're walking on down the peace wall here, and we're coming up to a place that was called Bombay Street. At the opposite side here would have been Bombay Street, that ran actually straight through here from the Shankill Road into the opposite side of here, which is the Falls Road. And why I wanted to paint an image at the start of the video for you is what the streets were like. That is exactly what it would have been like the whole way up this stretch, the whole way up here. Back in the late 60s and 70s, these streets here just ran straight through. Streets ran straight through, both sides of the community, straight through. And in the 60s, early 60s, both sides were able to walk freely between each other. But obviously as tensions started to build up, you know, the divide between the two was becoming more, you know, pronounced. That's when riots started to break out between both sides of communities, and a lot of the streets and houses here were burnt down. One of the most famous one was Bombay Street. It sparked off a multiple of streets and houses getting burnt down. And what actually happened was, the people living here on the Protestant side, their houses maybe get burnt out here, or they fled and they moved up a wee bit. And then the people on this side, their houses maybe got burnt out and they moved up a little bit. And next thing you know, you're moving up and up and up and up and up to the point the Shankill Road's here, the Falls Road's there, and you have this massive barren wasteland that separates both communities that nobody wants to live here. You could build a mansion here with a swimming pool and give them loads of money and free shopping, free gas, free electric. You could have built that here, and nobody would have wanted to live here. It was no man's land. Everybody wanted to retreat and flee inland, and that is how we ended up with this massive segregation and interface between two different communities. There's one of the city tour buses going up by the peace wall. If you're ever coming here and you want to do a proper tour and a loop of the whole city, you can jump on the city tour. It'll do a whole lot with Belfast, or like I says at the start of the video, book a taxi tour. If you want a proper in-depth story and knowledge and tour of the peace walls, book a taxi tour. And if you want to just whiz around the city and see different landmarks and attractions, jump on the hop on, hop off bus. The reason why I like coming here so much for a walk is all the graffiti and the paintings. Anytime I'm away travelling and I find like a kind of cool urban or metropolitan area full of graffiti, I always like to walk around it. And thankfully here, even though it has a bit of a sad past and it's notorious for all the wrong reasons, at least we can splash a little colour and a bit of light on something that's quite negative. But the artwork's incredible, really is. The graffiti is amazing. I've actually got my picture taken here when I was doing my sponsorship deal with my online sponsor. I got my pictures taken there because their badge is red and black. And when I was doing the hitchhiking tour across Europe, I came here to this painting here. I like the colour of that one the most. There's a picture of me on my social media, and the one I used the video before I hitchhiked across Europe was here. I like the small, medium and large. A lot of the graffiti and paintings, they actually look, even though the colours are different, they actually look quite similar. Can somebody leave me a comment in the comment section and let me know, do they know the artist or plural artists? This one here actually looks like my name, D-E-A. I think that's an M, Dean, but I'll claim it as Dean. I'll claim that as somebody's painting my name. But does anybody know the artist or artists that does this work here? Because it's really good stuff. So folks, when you get to the top of the Peace Wall, just before you come to a road called Larnick Way, there is a little coffee shop. Always like to promote local business. Been around the world. You can come in here and you can get yourself some refreshments or souvenirs in here while you're doing your tour around Belfast. If you come in, there's some souvenirs here. Belfast built. You get yourself mugs, key rings. There you go. Coffee ready, is it? Is it? Can I grab it? Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate that there. Thank you. There you go, folks. A little cappuccino here at Being Around the World. If you come across here, look. So earlier on in the video, I was telling you about Bombay Street and kind of the way the Peace Wall was. Here is actual real images of it. Here is the Peace Wall here, actually getting built. And here is the human-made barricades, barrels and barbed wire before the actual Peace Wall was built. They used that. There's the kids playing the street with the British soldiers. This is human-built barriers, again before the actual Peace Walls were built themselves. And that is, as you can see, people fleeing their homes, buses getting burnt out. Let me see. Crazy, crazy, crazy. That's street rats, as you can see, people throwing stones and bottles. And look at that, look at the barricade. I think this image here is funny, look at the little kid puffing on a cigarette. So there you go, folks, that's actual images. Thank you, mate, I appreciate that there. That is actual images of how Belfast was. Everything I told you in the tour there, that is archives of how it used to be. So if you're coming here, again, stop off, get refreshments, get a coffee at Being Around the World, and when you finish your tour you can actually check out and see how it actually looked. That's my first time seeing something like that myself. I'm actually blowing my mind. I'm going to finish this coffee, finish the vlog, and I'm going to go and check him out. That's incredible, the pictures there, again, because I'm walking around here doing the tour of what Belfast used to like. I'm trying to paint the picture, and I'm actually trying to paint the picture in my own mind, not just for you. And here you have an actual physical copy. Incredible. So folks, this is the fourth and final gate. Building Peace, this one says. And I'm coming to the end of the tour, but I just want to show you one last time. I'm technically standing in the middle here, no man's land. Behind me, to the right, is the Shankill Road, and up to the left is the Woodville Road, and here, down to the left is the Falls, up there is the Springfield Road. I've just noticed at this part of the Peace Walls, there isn't actually much kind of propaganda or paintings depicting either side. This one here is Our City. It's a cross-community youth group, and they've done a painting of different parts across Belfast. The big fish, the black taxi, the woman holding the hoop, that nobody knows the name of, the Titanic building, Harland and Wolff. And at the other side here, there is a Terry Bradley painting. He's a very famous Belfast painter that does this kind of chiselled style of artwork. That's the end of the tour, folks. If you like this kind of content, do me a favour, like the video, share the video, tag your friends, share it into your WhatsApp group, whatever it may be. Follow me on TikTok, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And again, if you like this kind of content, I predominantly travel worldwide. I've been to 60 countries on 6 different continents, and this was just a little snippet of a tour around my home country of Northern Ireland. So if you want to see more YouTube vlogs, you want to see crazy, chaotic travel content from every continent, give me a follow, give me a share, and stay tuned. When this video gets released and you're watching this, whether it be on TikTok or YouTube, I will be in a different continent, which is in 2 weeks time. I'm going to be catching a flight, so stay tuned from a crazy continent worldwide. Let's go!